In the heart of a lively forest, there lived a bushy-tailed squirrel who was famously known as the king of nuts. Every fall, while other animals prepared for winter quietly, Squirrel made a grand show of his nut collection. He'd climb to the top of the tallest tree and announce, "Look at me, I have more nuts than anyone else in the forest." The animals admired his hard work but laughed at his silly habit of bragging. "What's the point of having all those nuts if you can't find them later?" asked Rabbit. "Nonsense," replied Squirrel with a proud twitch of his tail. "I have a system. I've marked every hiding spot with an X on my special nut map." But there was a tiny problem. Squirrel was terrible at drawing maps. His nut map was just a mess of squiggly lines and random X marks, which looked more like a toddler's doodles than a reliable guide. Winter arrived, and the forest was covered in a blanket of snow. Squirrel's stomach growled as he shivered in his nest. "Time to feast on my glorious stash," he said to himself. Grabbing his map, he marched out to dig up his treasures. But when he reached the first X on the map and started digging, he found rocks. "This can't be right," he muttered, scratching his head. He moved to the next X, only to find a patch of frozen mushrooms. "Where are my nuts?" he cried. Squirrel spent hours digging all over the forest, but every X led to something ridiculous: mud, a pile of leaves, or even someone else's stash. The other animals watched him darting from spot to spot and couldn't stop laughing. Frustrated, Squirrel began to suspect foul play. "Someone must have stolen my nuts," he declared. He decided to interrogate the other animals. First, he accused Raccoon. "You've always been sneaky. Did you take my nuts?" Raccoon rolled his eyes and said, "Why would I need your stash? I have my own treasures, shiny things." Then, Squirrel confronted Rabbit. "You eat plants, but maybe you got tired of them and stole my nuts." Rabbit laughed and said, "Don't be silly. I have more than enough carrots to last the winter." Finally, Squirrel asked Owl, the wisest animal in the forest. "Owl, you see everything. Do you know who took my nuts?" Owl chuckled and said, "Why don't you retrace your steps? The answer might surprise you." After Owl's advice, Squirrel sat down to think. He suddenly remembered something. He had hidden a big stash of nuts near the riverbank. Excited, he ran to the spot, only to find the area completely flooded. "Oh no, my nuts must have washed away." Feeling defeated, Squirrel sighed and realized his bragging and careless planning had led to this disaster. The other animals, seeing his sad face, decided to help. Rabbit offered some carrots, Raccoon shared some berries, and Owl gave him seeds. Squirrel was touched. "I promise I'll be more careful next year," he said. "And I'll stop bragging." The animals laughed. "We'll believe it when we see it." As spring arrived, Squirrel was true to his word. He no longer boasted about his stash and worked hard to create a proper, organized system for storing his nuts. He even invited the other animals to share his food. The forest became a happier place, with all the animals working together and sharing their resources. And from that day on, Squirrel became known not as the king of nuts, but as the wise nut planner. Moral of the story: always plan ahead and be mindful of where you keep important things.
Please like and subscribe my channel for more such stories.